We're going to be in Luke chapter 8. We're going to get through at least 22 through 25 this evening. And we're going to camp out a little while in this because I really want to discuss the question that Jesus poses to the disciples here. So Luke 8 and verse 22. One day he got into a boat with his disciples, and he said to them, "Let us go across to the other side of the lake." So they set out, and as they sailed, he fell asleep. And a windstorm came down on the lake, and they were filling with water and were in danger. And they went and woke him, saying, "Master, Master, we are perishing." And he awoke and rebuked the wind and the raging waves, and they ceased, and there was calm. He said to them, "Where is your faith?" And they were afraid, and they marveled, saying to one another, "Who then is this that he commands even winds and water, and they obey him?" All right, so we have a basic situation here, right? So they're sailing on the ship, going across the sea. Storm comes up while Jesus is asleep, and the boat starts to get swamped with water. Has anybody ever been in a boat that's done that, that's taken on water? Yeah, it's not a very good feeling, is it? No, you're like, talk about anxiety going through the roof real quick, right? It happens. And so that's what you can just sort of picture the disciples. I get a picture of them trying to bail water out of the boat, and the waves are crashing over, and they're just like freaking out, right? Having a little firestorm going on. And then eventually they go to Jesus, and their question to him, they wake up, "Master, Master, we are perishing." And so they just make this statement that we're dying. There's no hope. And then Jesus wakes up and says, "Where's your faith?" Takes care of the storm, all the other good stuff, and then they go on across to the other side. What is it that we learn, if you will, from the disciples here?
I have a hard time with them saying, "Who can this be?" And maybe I'm being too literal reading that. Because,
I got you.
Like, you left and everything to follow him. Did
Yeah.
you not understand who he was?
Right.
And maybe I wouldn't have either. I don't know. But it's odd to me that they left everything, they're following him, and they're shocked. That
Right.
he did anything.
Well, I think because we have the blessing of knowing, reading and knowing everything, it's easier for us to look at them and go, "Come on, guys," But from their perspective, they've seen him do some stuff, which is, like you said, they've left everything, they're following him, so they've committed themselves to him. But it's almost like, well, he's kind of a Moses, Elijah figure, because they did some really awesome stuff. And so, when they had the followers, so they're like, okay, so that's that. And they're thinking the Messiah isn't necessarily God in the flesh, but rather he's going to be a ruler that's going to reestablish a physical kingdom. So when he does some of these things, they're like, "Oh, wow!" It's a little surprising to them. And like in this case in particular, they're thinking, like Moses or Elijah or whatever, and then Jesus pops up and they're like, "Oh, y'all calm down, and let's keep going." And it's kind of jarring, I guess, to them in that situation. So I can kind of see it from their perspective. From our perspective, it's easy. So we look at it and go, "Come on, guys, get with it,"
You have further, I guess further. It's like, who am I?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who do people say that I am? Right? Yeah.
Who do you say?
Right.
But I was also thinking, in chapter 7, it talks about the Son of Man is coming. As far as I knew, he was a prophet. He may have just been a prophet, because even
Right.
Ezekiel is called the Son of Man. by
Yes. Yes.
God. So,
Right. So you're like, it could go some different ways. And for them to fully understand that he is God in the flesh is a part of their learning curve as they're spending time with Jesus. In some cases, he does kind of say it outright, but he doesn't. Typically, he uses other language like the Son of Man, or he references prophecies about himself, that kind of thing to prove who he is. But these are commercial fishermen type, right? So they're they're picking up on that he's something special from God, but I don't think they quite understood. Probably not even until they received the Holy Spirit in Acts chapter 2 that they fully understood, oh yeah, this was God in the flesh on the earth right now. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't think they quite grasped that until the Spirit comes in, and then they have that full knowledge of everything.
I think God unfortunately relates to the disciples in a way of,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to say this, but like, I think their faith grows over time, and as they're with Jesus and so forth, and, you know, like I say, all the way to Acts 2 and beyond.
Yeah.
And I feel like my walk mirrors a lot of,
Yeah.
I may know some things, and I may have some faith in things, but boy, I sure seem dumb at times, or,
Oh, yeah.
you know, real ill-witted to pick up on,
Right.
you know, like, main way of saying, you know, ponder the question, where's your faith? And yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Right. Yeah. I think many times for myself, I tend to get to the point where they are, where I've done everything that I think is right to do, and in my mind it's hopeless, and so now I'll go to God. Right? So it wasn't like the waves showed up and immediately they go to Jesus. They waited till the boat is nearly sinking because it's taking on water. Then, when they think, oh, we're going to, Master, we're all going to die, you know, that's when they go to Jesus. I do that a lot too. You know, I wait to go to Christ. I wait to go to the Lord about whatever when I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, there's nothing else, right?
Well, but they don't go to him and say, they don't go say, Master, save us.
Save it, right. It's we're dying.
Yeah, and then they're surprised when he doesn't, when they don't.
Right.
I
Yes.
think it's more just like, we better let them know.
Right. Hey, man, we're done. Somebody wake Jesus up. Tell him we're all dead, right? Yeah. Right. And
Thought of him being all-knowing and things like they should. He knew that situation they in, and it's like, where's your faithful?
yeah.
You want us to buy all in? We knew you knew, so why couldn't you go do
Yeah.
something?
Right. Right. Yeah.
They hadn't seen the miracle back to
Right.
yet, and so
Right.
it's kind of, well, if we don't say something, we're going to say, why didn't you say something?
They may not have been on the receiving end of the miracle yet.
Right. They've seen others be healed from blindness and lameness and raised from the dead.
But never like immediate
Mm-hmm.
danger, like,
Right.
you know.
It's one thing whenever I see something happen for Stuart. It's another thing whenever I'm about to die. You know, that makes it personal, right? It's like a lot of things we talk about. Forgiveness is really good. That's all well and good until it's your son or daughter that was killed by someone else, and now you have to extend forgiveness to that person. You know, one of my favorite examples is the old boy in India who, when he became a Christian, he was attacked by the local Hindus, and they hacked his arm off. They cut his hand off. 15, 20 years later, the man that hacked his hand off is now a member in the congregation where that guy with the hand hacked off is an elder. And they worship together, worshiping Christ. I mean, that's huge. You know, when you talk about forgiveness, oh, you said something bad about me. Oh, boo-hoo. You know what I mean? In comparison, when you look at those things like that. But that's the kind of stuff that pulls us off. But like, you know, here, when it gets personal, when it gets real, that's when they're like, oh, we're done. You know, and you think about it from God's perspective. Do you think a little boat ride's going to stop the maker of the universe? No. But again, they didn't have that full understanding, I don't believe. Yes.
I think the contrast is pretty funny though, because when Jesus goes into the wilderness, he's tempted by the devil. One of the temptations, I think the devil knows more than we do,
Mm-hmm.
because he knows that God won't let the Messiah be killed.
Be
for
perished.
purpose.
Yeah.
So he's like, throw yourself down. I mean, the
Right.
same thing would be
The
applied
angels
to
will bear
God.
you up. Right. Right.
You know, boat and all that.
Yes, sir. Right. We're going to say that?
These guys are, I assume they're still with him. I'm jumping ahead here about 3 verses.
Mhm.
That will find out that he is the Son of the Most High God.
Oh, yeah, with the devil, the demon. Yeah, right. And, you know, I'm sure that they believed that and had thought that, but I don't think they fully grasped, you know, and then it's another situation, too, when you're about to die. You know, that's when we're tested. When we're, you know, taking an airplane trip, and then they say, "Oh, we're going to have some turbulence," and then, you know, an engine blows out, and you're like, "Oh, we are about to die." You know, you know, then it gets real personal real quick. You know, we talk about our folks that we've been praying for, Susie, Chandler, Pauline, the other young lady's name's skipping my mind right now. That's where they are. They know death is right there. You know, Raylene, they know it's right there. They know it's about to happen. Well, it's that way for all of us all the time. It's just we don't think about it because we don't know, okay, yeah, sometime within the next few months or a year, you're going to be gone. Right? But it's very personal when you know you're about to die. Right? And then that's when our faith is really tested. And I think that's a part of Jesus being asleep and not doing anything. You know, it's similar for us. He lets us ride out the storm because that's when our faith is built. You know, if whenever they got in the boat and the waves started coming up and he was awake and he just sort of stopped it before it ever even got there, they would never go through this. They would never have this faith-building experience. They never have that situation happen to them. And so God does the same with us. He lets us ride the storm so that we understand where our salvation really comes from.
We were talking about that this morning. If you have the ability to know your days or your number or your time, what you want to know.
Yeah.
And I think God saves us from most of the time. He doesn't put the reality in front of you until it's absolutely necessary.
Right.
You really don't want to know.
Right. Yeah.
You just don't.
Right.
It's not for your benefit.
No. You know, we're told over and over again, thief in the night. We're told over and over again, you know, you're not given a guarantee on one day to the next. You know, life is a vapor, a mist. It's here and gone. And to make the best use of the time you have, right? And now let's look at this phrase that Jesus poses back to him. You know, where is your faith? I was kind of thinking about this from a, you know, probably a comical perspective that is probably not accurate, but have you ever been, like, for me, it'd be driving a vehicle, and you barely miss, you know, getting hit or something to that effect, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, and you look over and you go, what are you worried about? you know what I mean? Yeah, I got this. Yeah, nothing going to happen. You know, so to a degree, I kind of think of it from that perspective, where Jesus is like, where's your faith? I got this. You know, what are you worried about? It's sort of a comical sort of thing. But then I feel like it also, and probably more likely, is on the side of, you know, more serious, like, you know, literally, no, where's your faith? Why are you freaking out? Okay, you're going to die. You've seen me raise dead people. Why are you worried about it?
Well, they were afraid because the boat was failing.
Yeah, that was their safety net. That was their security.
That was their faith. Because
Yeah.
the boat would float.
Yeah. So with that in mind, thinking about where is your faith, physical things that we put our faith in. For them, it was that the boat would float, right? And so that's where their faith is. And now their boat ain't floating; it's sinking. So now what they had, the physical thing that they had their faith in, is going away, right? They can't trust it anymore. So then they have to turn to Jesus, right? So what are the physical things that we put our faith in? Absolutely. I mean, that's the easy number one, right? That's one of the first things that comes to mind is money, right? Because basically, you know, what we're taught essentially in America is if you have enough money, then you're going to be okay, right? You can pay for your medical stuff, you can pay for your home, you can pay for car. As long as you got enough money, you're going to be fine. You've got security in money, right? That's kind of one of the things that you start talking about. Long-term planning for retirement, and, you know, security is a big word that a lot of the folks use to want you to invest their money. Well, it's secure here. It's so that you'll have security in the future and that kind of thing. Money's not secure. It's just not. And to put your faith in that, right, is not smart. It's just like them putting their faith in the sinking boat. Because the money is not what's going to bring you salvation or take care of you, but it's Jesus. And if you wait till the money's gone to then turn to Christ, it might be too late. You know, the boat might already sunk, right? And you're gone, right? But the trick, if you will, is to recognize where the faith is supposed to be placed and keep your faith placed there while you're riding in the boat, whether it's sinking or floating. It doesn't matter. Whether the bank account's full or empty, doesn't matter, right? What are some other things that we put our faith in? Physical things.
Country.
Yeah, our nation, right?
Because we feel here in the United States, safe, secure, where we live at here in Texas, we feel safe,
Yeah.
and secure.
Mhm.
That can change.
Yeah.
We don't look at it thinking, well, it's not going to.
Right. Absolutely. Just look in the history book a little bit, and you'll see where nations that were established a whole lot longer than America, in a short period of time, completely collapsed in on themselves or were overtaken by other countries. I mean, it happens, and it very well can happen. A lot of people get really worked up about the socialist, communist, Taoist, humanist, different ists and isms that are out there that are infiltrating our country because they are eroding a lot of the basic concepts of America. And then when that happens, then the country really becomes more unstable and we have a lot of problems. And some people, that their faith is in the country, when those things happen, they start losing their mind. Well, if we're in Christ, it doesn't matter what country you live in, you're still in the kingdom of God. That's where our citizenship is. And our faith is in Him, not in the country we live in. It just may depend on how hard it is to share Christ and outwardly be a Christian, and that's about all it might be, right? But we look at, or some people will look at the country, and that's where their faith is in, not in Jesus. What else? Physical things we put our faith in. Yep. Yeah, they're very dependable, right? Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like most things in when it comes to technology. I always say technology is great till it's not, right? And when it don't work, that's when you're like, and it's usually when you're depending on it. When we went to Colorado, I printed out our boarding pass, and my boss at work, he was like, dude, you can just do that on your phone. And I'm like, yeah, but then I have to depend on my phone. If it's printed out, I've got it. It's going to work unless I lose it, which is possible. But I've got it in my hand. I know this will work. And when we came back, well, Jacob didn't have a printer. So I was like, we've got to depend now on the technology, which it worked fine, and we didn't have a problem with it. But that's exactly what I was expecting, is to walk up there to go to the little bloop, and they would say, oh, no, yours doesn't work. But thankfully, everything worked fine. But, yeah, as soon as you depend on it, that's when it crumbles. That's when it falls, right? Yes, that was one of the directions I was going to go to. Medication, medicine, healthcare in general, right, that we have available to us. For most of us in here, if we break a bone, it's very uncomfortable, but we're going to have pain medicine to help with that. We're not fearful of death because we broke a bone, because we can go to the doctor, and the doctor's going to hopefully set it correctly, and you'll get all the right stuff. And even if it was so bad that they couldn't and they had to take the limb off, well, you're still not likely to die. The fear of death from a broken bone is pretty low. You go back a couple hundred years and you break a bone, that could be pretty bad. That you very well could die pretty easily from that. Yes. Infection's huge. The small cuts that get infected, well, you just might die. Whereas today, we don't even think about it. You get a cut, you clean it, you put your antibiotic cream on it, whatever, you move on. All those things. Dentistry is a huge one, right? I'm always so happy whenever they can actually get my mouth numb. I'm like, I'm so glad I live in this era. Because just to think about what's going on in there, if they didn't have that, it was just, right? But we do. We put our faith in that. And then when that fails, because, yeah, guys, if you hadn't been there yet, doctors don't know everything. And they don't get it right. And when that fails, if that's where your faith is that the doctor's going to take care of me, then that's right, yeah. And we try to get better, but still. So, yeah, those are some easy things we can think about physically that we put our faith in. We can put our faith in the building. We can put our faith in the guy who's standing up here talking. We can put our faith in our brothers and sisters over God, over Jesus, over what He has told us. and all of those things will fail us. And so we have to be very careful about that and recognize when we're putting our faith and our security in the things that are physical that aren't going to last. Because where do we need to be putting our faith? In God the Father, in Jesus, in His Spirit. The three together that guide us, right? And that's one of their primary means of guiding us is through their Word, right? And so all of that is pointing us from being physically minded to being spiritually minded. And that's a hard shift because I like what I can feel, see, hold, and touch, right? If I can't feel, see, hold, and touch it, then I'm like, how can I depend on it? Well, we can't see Jesus, right? We recognize His work. We recognize His Spirit. We recognize what's going on, but you can't see it, taste it, touch it, but you can feel it, and you can recognize the effects of it. You know, and that's where we have to, our faith, right? The whole aspect of faith is believing in the things that it's the substance of our hope, and it's believing in the things that we have evidence for, right? And so that's what we go back to know what faith is. Now, what is it that makes faith alive and real? Exactly. James chapter 2, what does he say? Faith without works is dead, right? Just like he says in the same thing, he says, just like the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead. He even specifically says there, faith alone, without works, cannot save you, right? And so having an active faith is huge because that's how faith is made known. When people physically see how you live your life, that's you showing, displaying the faith that you have. And if you're not living that faith, if you're not physically doing those things, then nobody knows what your faith is. Just like, again, James chapter 2 says, he says, you know, you tell me you have faith, I'll show you I have faith by what I do. And so physical demonstration of our faith is how we live our life, right? What we say, what we do, where we go. How we respond to the things like the crisis that the disciples are going through. And let's not wait till the boat's sinking, but let's immediately go to Christ whenever we see the storm on the horizon. And realize it doesn't matter if the boat sinks and we die as long as our faith is in Him. Because He is the one who has the indestructible life, and He has given us His Spirit, which then makes us indestructible as well. All right, any other points or comments on there before we close down? Okay, class is yours. Thank you very much.